Hey everyone who's getting in. We're gonna start to slowly let everyone get in from the waiting room before we begin our first lunch and learn. Give everyone a few minutes. Awesome. Hi everyone, welcome. Looks like a good group is logging in. Just give everyone one more minute. Hi everyone. Cool. Awesome. Just a few more people are logging in. It looks like we have a good group, which is exciting because this is our first one with Skillstruck. We have a lot of people from the team on with us as well. So I'm sure some of you see some familiar faces, either in the camera or some familiar names in the chat.
Hi.
Hi, Deanne.
I was just on a call with Valerie, so I'm gonna just excuse myself for just a couple minutes and then I'll be right back.
No worries. We're happy to
It's all
have you.
my
We're also
fault.
going to record it. No worries. I'm happy that Valerie was able to pull you along with her. Yeah, if there's nobody else waiting, I think we're just going to jump right into it. My name is Isaac. I'm one of the customer success managers with Skillstruck. And over this past semester, we've been hearing a lot of our team members, as well as people from the Skillstruck community, really wanting to do lunch and learns or some daytime activities. So we are happy to host the first one in the final month on the last day of Teacher Appreciation Week. So we're happy for all the educators who were able to join us. Like I said, we have a lot of Skillstruck team members on here, but I did want to highlight a few. We have Sam Reed, who is our marketing event coordinator. She helped put this all along, as well as two members of our customer support team, Crystal Colbert and Ann Gomez. So if you have any issues, feel free to reach out to Sam, Crystal, Ann, or I in the chat, and we'll definitely try to fix your issues or connect you with the right person who can. But one person that I want to highlight who helped create the curriculum as well as the program today is Bree Yoakum. She is our curriculum developer with Skillstruck. She's been with the company for a long time, and we're excited for what she has put together for you all to learn today. After she does her presentation, we're going to open the floor up for question and answers. And then right before we head out, we're going to do a quick exit poll so that we can get everyone their gift card for registering and joining us today. But before that all happens, I want to turn it over to Bree. So Bree, if you want to introduce yourself, that would be great.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Isaac. So hi, everyone. I'm going to share my screen real quick so that you all can see what we're going to be talking about today. So we are going to be talking about something I feel very passionate about, which is cross-curricular and computer science. But before we dive into that, I definitely want to introduce myself so you know who is presenting to you. My name is Bree. I'm a curriculum developer here at Skillstruck. I mainly work with creating curriculum for the elementary space. So that K through 5 age range is where I mainly work. So I myself started my career as an elementary school teacher, where I had the opportunity to teach students more in the upper elementary for a few years. So like 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. And then afterwards, I actually transitioned into special education and had the opportunity to work with all ages in elementary, kindergarten through 5th grade. And I absolutely loved that experience as well. So it was as I was kind of in my teaching career, reflecting on the work I was doing with students, that I really saw the need for computer science and the skills it would teach them. And so that is why I joined Skillstruck and am here today to kind of help further that mission. So that being said, like Isaac said, if you have any questions throughout this presentation, since there are a good number of us, we would love if you would put your questions in the chat. I definitely want to try and answer as many questions as possible. So yeah, we'll be sure, I'll keep my chat open, and we'll have lots of people on the call who are eager to answer your questions as well. All right, but let's go ahead and get started today. So talking about computer science, since you're all here, I assume we have some level of experience in computer science. I would actually love just to get like an idea of who's joining us today. If you guys wouldn't mind putting in the chat kind of your name, your position, I would love to know that, just so that I can get a feel for who's in our audience. So your name and kind of, yeah, what you do. That would be great. Awesome. Yeah. And you know what? We love having all teachers, everyone who, whether experiencing computer science or not, we absolutely love it. Awesome. Hi, Sam. Hi, Lynn. Fantastic. Frank, Megan. Hi, Valerie, Melissa, Deanne. This is great. So it looks like we have directors, we have teachers, we have everyone involved with kind of education, technology, dean of studies. This is great. Admin. Awesome. So yeah, kind of bringing this back to computer science. So our purpose for teaching computer science and bringing computer science into the classroom is to do these 3 things that you see here on the screen: to inspire creators, grow problem solvers, and strengthen communities. And computer science will not only prepare our students kind of with these hard skills of computer programming and really just a lot of different hard skills, but it will also give them skills like problem solving. It'll help strengthen their critical thinking, their questioning, and that's really going to extend and apply to all areas of our life. It kind of makes me laugh when I think about problem solving. I mainly work, like I said, in elementary, but I do work very closely with our secondary curriculum developer as well. So if you have any questions pertaining to secondary, I will do my best to answer those. But really it's that problem solving. I mean, we've all probably woken up today and problem solved, whether that was finding the right parking spot when you got to work today, or maybe, your kids forgot their lunch at school, so you had to figure out how you're going to work that into your day. But we definitely problem solve all the time. And I will say, I wanted to put in like a few kind of funny problem solving stories I've recently seen that really kind of, to me, lead back to computer science in a funny way. So the first one is this guy right here who found it way easier to mow the grass with a lawnmower you could ride instead of one you can push. So his problem solving here was, rather than buying a brand new lawnmower, he was like, well, I'm just going to repurpose my old bike and make it happen. So that's one example that I love, just kind of using that problem solving skill, right? We use it in everyday life. Another one, I know my grandparents struggle when using the remote. I don't know if any of you know anyone that is in a similar situation, but the son of this elderly woman, he knew she was having a challenge using the TV. So he covered up majority of the buttons and left the 2 buttons she would need clearly labeled to kind of help her problem solve. And the last one is this person's cat kept wanting to jump up on the bed and join them, so they just used them as their furry phone holder, which I loved. So that being said, going back to our purpose and our mission here with computer science, we definitely want to help grow problem solvers. And that's what computer science does. It's not only going to give them the hard skills to know how to code, but it's also going to foster and strengthen those problem solving skills, which is going to help them in every aspect. Okay. So computer science, like I said, does prepare them though with these industry ready skills, in addition to strengthening their problem solving. And computer science skills really do apply to all career fields, including these that you see here. We see sales, we see marketing, UX design, quality assurance, graphic design, cybersecurity. I mean, the list really goes on and on and on. these are just a few examples that we see. So bringing computer science into our classrooms is going to do a lot of things for them. It's going to help strengthen their critical thinking, which is going to help in every other academic subject as well. And it's also going to give them those industry ready skills. So when they do finish school, they can go on and feel more prepared, feel like they have more of that head start when going into, if they choose to go into these fields. I will get to cross-curricular, don't you worry. I feel like it's important for us to talk about this at the beginning, just to understand kind of the why to computer science and understanding how much of an impact it can truly have for our students. So you really might be wondering though, how likely is it for our students to be entering computer science or STEM fields in the future? And the Department of Labor recently put out this statistic, which I found really interesting. They said that they estimate that 65% of today's students are going to work in STEM jobs that do not currently exist. So, let's think back a minute. Let's think back to 15 years ago. Okay, 2007. In 2007, it gave us the iPhone. It's when Facebook and Twitter went global. It's when the Kindle and Android were released. It was the year of Wii video games, and Blu-ray DVDs, if we remember those, are how we watched movies. So that was only 15 years ago. And if you look now, how much has technology evolved? How much have things changed? Fast forward to today, I mean, we've come a long way. So not only does technology touch almost every aspect of our own personal lives, but it's also the future of the workforce. So I found this really interesting, seeing that majority of our students are going to end up working jobs that don't even exist today. So there's a university out in Utah called Utah State University. And just to kind of help support this idea, they just recently in the last year or two came out with a degree that allows students to get a minor in drone flying. And you might be like, oh, wow, what am I going to use drone flying for? And a lot of them are using it to become licensed drone pilots, so they can go into jobs where they're working with gathering agricultural data by flying over these farmlands. I mean, there's 1,000 things. Who knows, with Amazon talking about having drone technology dropping off our packages hours after we, hit buy my product. But these things are definitely becoming more and more prevalent today. And so it's important to give them these skills, since they will be used. Whether the job is there or not right now, it definitely will be. So just kind of bringing back our why computer science. So we as educators are very data driven. When we expose our students to computer science, there's a lot of data there, and it helps us see the benefits beyond just knowing that they're learning how to code. So for example, things like better performance in other academic areas. So reading, math, science, not only in elementary, but in secondary as well. These skills are going to translate between the different academic areas. Also in secondary, students tend to get higher scores on AP exams like AP Calculus and AP Statistics when they're doing computer science, because that problem solving skill is getting strengthened. It's going to apply everywhere. And then for all of our kids, it's promoting better life skills, better problem solving skills, which is something I feel like we can all agree our students today more than ever need all the opportunities they can get to increase those critical skills to be more successful, not only in school, but to prepare them for life after school, for the workforce. So I'm going to pause here for a moment. I would love to know if you guys have any questions. Please put those in the chat before we continue through the presentation. Are there any questions? Or you can come off mute as well. All right, that is totally good. So if you do have any pop up throughout, please do not hesitate to put them in there. But the cool thing with computer science is that computer science fosters a deeper learning. For those that do have experience in computer science, I would love for you to kind of, whether it's using the Zoom reaction or if you're on camera, raising your hand, just kind of show me by raise of hands, have you noticed kind of a deeper learning process when you teach computer science for those that have that experience in the classroom? Seeing a couple hands. Yeah. Computer science definitely fosters deeper learning. Now, there's a quote by a man named Ben Johnson. He wrote an article and he said, deeper learning can be accelerated by combining relevant content, in effect, opening new spillways of knowledge. Now, not all schools are able to offer computer science as an isolated course for instruction, right? And so it's in these cases that we need to start thinking of ways to meet these deeper learning needs for our students without, trying to create a whole new isolated instruction time for a course that maybe it's not possible yet. And the answer to this, how do we create this deeper learning through computer science, would be to start bringing in cross-curricular lessons. Now, cross-curricular is a term I'm sure several of you are familiar with. A cross-curricular lesson is a lesson that integrates multiple standards-based topics into a single lesson. And so cross-curricular lessons are widely known for fostering this deeper learning. And there is a metaphor here that I once heard, that deeper learning is, I wrote it down so I wouldn't mess it up, but that deeper learning is almost like taking a long drink from a well of knowledge, as opposed to only sipping from many different wells. And I found that really inspiring to realize, yeah, deeper learning, definitely, it's a lot more of, it's a different level that you're learning on, but it's going to be so much more beneficial in how you are acquiring this knowledge. So cross-curricular lessons truly do provide rich, rigorous, and relevant, I would say, learning opportunities for our students. Now, do any of you have experience teaching? Have you ever taught a cross-curricular lesson? I would love to kind of see. If not, that is totally okay. Okay, so I'm seeing a few. Awesome. Yeah, bringing in that cross-curricular is really helpful. And also, if you haven't, that's okay. Like I know it took me a few years before I started doing cross-curricular lessons and seeing the benefits to it. So let's talk about those benefits. So the first one to talk about is time. Realistically, our teachers, you guys have a lot going on in the classroom. You have a lot of time that's already filled with other priorities. And so cross-curricular kind of helps with that time factor, because the integration piece allows you to kind of teach multiple things at once, which is going to give you more time to teach in your classroom. You're not having to teach two different lessons or two different, like, let's say 40-minute lessons in your class, but instead you're teaching one 40-minute lesson that is actually a deeper learning experience for your students. And you might be thinking, well, if it's, deeper learning, how much will my students really get from it? So let's kind of move on to these next three benefits. The first one being real world application. So teaching cross-curricularly, the cross-integration piece, really resembles real world experiences. If you think about just kind of like going throughout the day, we naturally build connections within our own minds, and we're connecting different topics, different subjects. We see, how does this affect this? So we naturally build connections in our own mind. So to teach subjects cross-curricularly, to be building these concepts for them, is actually a really natural way for our students to learn, as opposed to one subject at a time. Now, if that is how it's happening, that is 100% okay. But cross-curricular, by teaching these lessons, is going to increase that real world application and kind of that real world insight that your students will get. The next one is the engagement piece. There have been several studies that have been done that show students who participate in cross-curricular lessons show higher participation in the lesson, and also are showing higher comprehension, higher retention, and higher motivation. Because it's deeper learning, your students are more engaged in it. They're trying to process it. They're trying to understand and build these connections. So that engagement level is going to go up as well. And last, going back to these two common words that we're hearing, problem solving. Cross-curricular lessons are increasing students' decision-making skills because these multiple subjects that are being discussed, it's supporting their critical thinking, their creativity. So there are a lot of benefits to cross-curricular, and I will say there are many more I didn't even touch on, but these are just the top 4 that I definitely.
So it says you have used your.
Oh, is there a question?
Opportunity for the test.
Okay, and you're for sure, I mean, this.
Oh, that's okay. Are there any questions? I would love to hear. What questions do we have? And feel free to come off mute or put them in the chat, either way. Okay, that's all right. We'll go ahead and continue on. So you might be wondering, well, how do I even do the cross-curricular with computer science? We're used to hearing the terms computer science and thinking programming, coding. So how do I bridge that and bring that into other subjects? I will say it is possible to integrate computer science with any subject being taught in the classroom. Whether you're in elementary or in secondary, it's possible to do this integration. It just might require some, if you're in secondary, it may require collaboration with another subject teacher. Or if you are in elementary and let's say you're teaching computer science along with all the other academic ones, it might require some alignment with other subjects. But with those 2 options, whether that's aligning with other subjects you're currently teaching, or whether that is collaborating with other subject teachers, both options are going to give you these opportunities to teach cross-curricular. So here are just a few examples that I want to touch on to kind of help show ways we can bring computer science into the classroom. So one thing I did when I was a school teacher with my upper grade students is we were learning HTML, which is like a website building computer language. And with this, students learned how, or they built a website using this computer science, and they built a PSA announcement about how humans can help an important cause like recycling or endangered species. And so they were pulling in subjects that we were learning in class in science and building a website. So rather than just like building a poster board or doing, let's say, you know, some kind of model building, they built a website. So that's one way is to bridge that gap, is bringing in website building with a concept that, you know, it could be like a very formative way of assessing them. So this is just one example for science. If we move on to math, students could discuss math principles that cross over into Python. For example, if you're in secondary and your students are learning Python, there is Python math concepts that students will need to learn if they are doing a Python course. And those really easily cross over with math concepts they're already learning in their grade levels. So being able to just kind of make that cross integration, even just referencing it and showing students how it connects. And then similar to the science one with English, rather than doing, let's say, a book report that's handwritten or typed up, have them build a website about their book report, have them share about the characters and the plot and the settings and all these different facets that normally you would see in a book report, have them dive in and put those into a website. So just a few more for just ideas that maybe are hopefully starting to kind of spur in your minds. But one is for history. They could build a website about a historical figure. For music, there's a lot of computer science concepts like algorithms or loops. For those that who may know, algorithms are almost like instructions, and loops are things that repeat over and over. So when you think of music, for example, a loop, there's a lot of iterations, or there's a lot of things that happen over and over again in the same song. Maybe it's the same melody, maybe it's the same words that happen over and over, but being able to tie in these connections. Or with art, we learn how to change the text colors to things. And if you're learning about warm and cool colors, you can bring that into website building. So these are just, a few ideas for ways you can bring cross-curricular computer science lessons into your classroom. So now, as mentioned previously, to be successful in cross-curricular teaching, it does require sometimes collaboration amongst teachers, or sometimes aligning subjects, like how we often do in the elementary space. But I will say, just to kind of put my own little plug here, is that at Skillstruck, we do have cross-curricular lessons already built for you. And so in 3rd through 5th grade, also in secondary, that planning of needing to do the alignment, of needing to do that's already done for you. So that's just kind of my little plug there. Are there any questions so far about cross-curricular, or concerns, thoughts? I'd love to hear.
I'll just say, hi, my name is Sam Polk. I'm a Dean of Studies, and as I said in the chat, have no experience whatsoever with coding or computer science. But I'm also a humanities teacher by training, so interdisciplinary is how we do stuff in our school. But I'm always excited about bringing new things, new modes of production, new types of literacies into our classrooms. I just would love to hear you reflect on kind of the amount of time that it would take for students to get to a point where, if they're not in a coding or computer science class otherwise, they can actually use some basic skills in a meaningful way in a middle or high school classroom without spending weeks building those skills, when we don't necessarily have the teaching time to build all those predicate skills in a non-computer science coding class, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Sam. Thank you for asking. So just so I'm understanding correctly, let's say it's not that these students that are in this class haven't taken computer science, they don't know computer science. How, if it really is supposed to save them time, how are we teaching that in a way so that it is kind of, they're having these opportunities to do this deeper learning with computer science? Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think of like projects that I would love to do, like write an algorithm for a social movement, right? Based on your historical understanding of social movements, how could you make like a decision tree that reflects the types of challenges that might come up, but in like a meaningful way? How do you have that build the predicate knowledge that's necessary for them to understand and do something like that?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. Also love the humanities example and tie in there. So thanks for adding to kind of our examples here. But for it's, how do I explain this? So with the teacher, they would just need to understand, okay, what concept. So it might be helpful. I don't know if you have any like computer science teachers at your school. Do you guys have access to, is there like a teacher who teaches programming by chance?
Not yet, but we're working on it.
Okay, that's all right. And if not, that's okay. But it would just be the teacher mainly would just go in, and if they're using Skillstruck, like we have these lessons already built for them. We have lesson plans. So let's say the teacher's never touched coding before. It explains to them, okay, here's how you explain what this is to your students. Let's say an algorithm. Here's how you explain what it is in computer programming. And here's how you tie it to this concept. So we have those available for teachers. If you don't have that kind of curriculum at your school, if you do get a computer science teacher, it really would just be that collaboration. It would be working with them and saying, okay, I really want to do, let's say, this social movement project that you mentioned. How do I tie this in with computer science? And that computer science teacher would say, oh, here's this concept that will work with this, so that your humanities teacher who is teaching doesn't need to go and become a whole computer science teacher themselves, because that's not realistic. And so it would be that collaborative piece that you would need in order to do that, just so that your teachers, you know, they feel like it's manageable, it's doable, and they have someone who can help them know what subjects to hit and how to teach those things. Yeah, because sometimes computer science is an elective and not all of our students do use it. And so we want to make sure we can give those opportunities to all of our students. And I think that would probably be the best way to do it. That's a good question. Any other questions? I see Frank's comment. I've seen students integrate ELA competencies into Minecraft lessons and watch students weave storytelling into Scratch activities. Yeah, it's really fun to kind of see how students come up with these things almost naturally on their own too. Students love, for those that don't know, Scratch is a younger elementary based coding platform. And so students love to create stories, they let their imaginations run, and oftentimes they naturally will be able to build these integrations on their own thought, which is cool. Deanne, once you figure out what you want the students to do, Skillstruck's platform is very supportive for teachers and students that are just learning. Oh, thank you, Deanne. Appreciate that. And then another question came through: how can schools accomplish teaching cross-curricular if they don't have a dedicated computer science teacher? And that is a really good question. And it really breaks down to research. Like, unfortunately, that is the answer there, is just teachers would need to learn kind of those first topics of, okay, maybe what is an algorithm, figuring out what are the basic parts of computer programming. And then even if it's Googling something, if they don't have that pre-knowledge, it would just be doing a little bit of research, figuring out, okay, what is an algorithm, getting that knowledge base, and then tying it to a subject that they are already familiar with, so that it will just be a little more intentional in that lesson. Good question. Other comments or questions? Yep, looking through our HTML1 course at Skillstruck. If you have, access to our platform or even our free platform, looking through and seeing kind of what those subjects are, just to kind of get a jump start on, okay, where do I even begin? Seeing kind of those different topics are a way to do that. Thanks, Margie. Awesome. Are there any other questions I can help answer here? All right. If there are more questions, feel free to either private message me through Zoom, or you can just throw it in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and pass the time back over to Isaac.
Bree, thank you so much. That was amazing. And I know, like, being on the team, I just learned a lot too that I can pass forward to our partners and our teachers. Something that I want to add, that if you have any questions at all that come through after this, or would like to forward this recording to you, just feel free to email me. It's isaacgarrison@skillstruck.com. My email was in the invite. Something that I'm going to have Sam launch right now is we do have a gift card for everyone who participated today in the Lunch and Learn. So she's going to launch a Zoom poll question. And if you can just answer that poll question to let me know which kind of gift card you would like to be sent to you, to award you for attending our Lunch and Learn and kind of reimburse you for the lunch that you possibly might have just ate, that'd be fantastic. And she'll keep it up there on the screen until we have a majority of people answered. And if you didn't get a chance to answer after this, I'll be able to email you all. And if you don't have access to the If you don't have access to the question, just feel free to DM me now and we can figure that out for you. Awesome. Sam, are we still waiting on a few answers? Cool. Also, I think, Sam, do you want to tell them about the event that we have coming up this month?
Sure, I'd love to. So we hold a number of free code events specifically targeted to educators to give you guys a chance to get an idea of what it's like to teach computer science using Skillstruck. And our next one is coming up on May 17th. It's an intro to Python workshop. It's specifically targeted for beginners. I will really quick get the link for that and drop it in the chat before everybody closes out. But you'll learn how to use Python to code custom Mad Libs, which is really fun. And it's a great activity to be able to take back to your classroom to get an idea of what it would be like to teach CS. And it will give you access to a free code editor after the event is over. So even if you're not going to do it with your classroom, we know it's summer, you can still sort of play around with it on your own, practice your skills, and sort of get an idea of how the platform works. So as soon as I stop talking, I'll find that link for you and drop it in. Anybody who's interested, you're welcome to come. It's free and we'd love to have you.
Yeah, a couple questions came through. If you guys need to take off, that's fine. But if you would like to stay around, I'm happy to share kind of an example cross-curricular lesson that we do have on our website, if that's something that you are wanting to see. So as you guys are getting that organized, I will pull that up.
Thank you.
And I think we're also slowing down on responses to the poll. I'll leave it up for just a few more minutes, but then once Bree starts presenting, I'll go ahead and close that out.
Thank you. And like Bree said, if you don't want to stick around and see the example or cross-curricular lesson, feel free to exit out, but we will have it also recorded so we can send it to you as well. Thank you. But Melissa, thank you for giving us that feedback. We also love having your students on the platform as well.
All right, are we good for me to start showing that? Okay,
I believe
perfect.
so.
Awesome. And Sam, let me know if you want to interrupt me at all for poll reasons. Okay, so we're going to take a dive into our Skillstruck platform so I can show you kind of what some of those cross-curricular lessons might look like. So I'm going to be focusing on Launchpad, and then I can go into Voyage afterwards to kind of show you. Voyage is our secondary platform. So I'll show you elementary first, and then I'll show you secondary. So we're going to start off in our elementary platform. Can we all see my screen okay? Fantastic. So when you log in, you'll see for our cross-curricular, we have 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade cross-curricular. We don't currently have kindergarten, 1st, and 2nd, just because we've seen the benefits are highest in those upper elementary grades. So that is where we focus our cross-curricular material. But let's go into 4th grade cross-curricular. So looking at this unit, you'll see there's science, math, and English language arts. Now, let's say I want to teach my students science and I'm a 4th grade teacher, or let's say I work with 4th graders as part of our STEM time. There are different lessons here, and these ones are focused on HTML. Now, these are designed for the general education classroom. They can be done in any classroom setting, but what that means is that they can be student-led. The teacher does not need to have prior coding experience in order to do them. So for example, if I wanted to, let's say I was teaching my students about natural resources. Okay, if I go into the paragraphs and natural resources lesson, they will have access. They'll see kind of these different things here. I'm going to unpin this for the moment so that we can see the screen a little bigger. But they're going to learn how to code paragraphs on a website. It'll walk them through. We have our text to speech here. It shows them examples of what this might look like after the code is written. And there's also a video to walk students through it. Now, just to kind of note for the teachers here, all of these cross-curricular lessons are standard aligned, which means for science, we align them not only to our CSTA standards, which are the National Computer Science Standards, but they're also aligned to the next generation science standards for science lessons. And then for math and English, they are also aligned to Common Core. So they're all standard aligned. So after a student learns how to do a paragraph tag on a website here, they might go in and explore a checkpoint and a quiz, which are just kind of check for understandings. And then after they explore the checkpoint in the quiz, there are challenges that's going to support them in their learning. So along with each cross-curricular platform lesson, we have lesson plans coming. So if you're like, well, I really want to teach them about natural resources too, that first part of the lesson plan is going to be teaching your students about natural resources. You can choose to use it or use the lesson you're already familiar with using in your classroom if you already have a prepared lesson plan. But we have one there just as support. And so these challenges will integrate these concepts of natural resources with these paragraph coding concepts they're learning in the lesson. So this is just one example. This one says, write 2 paragraph tags explaining how trees are used as a natural resources. What can trees be used to make? Feel free to do research in a new tab if you need help. Each paragraph tag needs to have at least 4 sentences. So there is an example here for your students. It shows them the requirements they need to hit. And then they would come down here in their code editor and they would code with the output on the right side. And this is what it would look like on their website. Any questions about this so far? Okay, awesome. So you're going to see the same similar setup within all the cross-curricular lessons. Again, this is just the 4th grade science. We have different science concepts that are tied to the 4th grade science standards. And again, are integrated with those computer science. So not only do we have science, we also have math and English language arts where students are practicing those coding concepts along with other subject-based content. So I want to show you guys kind of what this now looks like if we were to go to Voyage. So I'm going to navigate to our secondary platform. And on our secondary platform, it's more focused on Python, integrating with that computer language. And just as we saw with Launchpad, they are also standards-based. So they're tied to the CSTA, National Computer Science Standards, and they're also tied to those next generation science standards in Common Core for the different subjects that they hit. So logging into this secondary space, I would go to the cross-curricular course, and there's 2 courses here. There's exploring math through Python, and there's exploring conservation with Python. So we have both a math unit and a science unit. So students would come through, and these are each different lessons. I'm gonna expand this for a moment. So this one is learning about variables in Python code. I'm gonna go ahead and create a new file so that it's easier to see here. So if I wanted to make this bigger, I would do that. So we can learn all about variables here. Again, just like with the other lessons we saw in Launchpad, we do have text to speech. We have all the information here. We have examples. We have a video teaching your students. So this information and this content is going to allow it where it can be teacher-led or it can be student-led. And just like we saw with Launchpad, we also have a checkpoint. We have a quiz. These two are used just to kind of check for students' understanding. And then there are also challenges to kind of test their skills. So if they're learning about variables, let's go into letter variables here. They're going to be asked to create some different kinds of variables using Python code. Any questions with our secondary cross-curricular so far? Okay, and I'll show you guys just one more unit, the conservation unit. This one's really cool. Students actually do a lot of animal tracking. There's a resource we're able to tie to here where students can use Python to track the movement of different marine animals in the ocean. There's like a website that tracks them. And so students actually get to go through this conservation unit and learn how to use Python to help, conserve our oceans, treat our oceans right, track the animals. So there's a lot of really cool science principles that are brought in here. But it's set up the exact same way with our checkpoint, quiz, and then this is just the introduction page, which is why you're not seeing any challenges. But in each of these following lessons, students would practice these Python concepts in challenges and checkpoints like you saw previously. Any questions? So yeah, we definitely want to make it more possible to do cross-curricular in the classroom, which is why we've provided these resources here. This definitely does take that research out, that research piece that teachers might need to do beforehand. It definitely alleviates them of that so that everything's already done. In elementary, we do have those lesson plans already created for them. This content is here. Everything is in the textbook. There's videos. We do feel passionate about the impact and the benefit that cross-curricular can bring to the classroom. So we definitely want to try and give teachers as many resources as we can to support them in doing that. Awesome. I think that's kind of all I wanted to show on the platform though, but if there are teachers who are using SkillsTrack or are looking into it that do have more questions on this, please don't hesitate to ask. I'd love to answer.
Yeah, thank you, Bree. I think that since all of you were happy to join us, we're so happy that you did. If there are any questions more about the platform and you're not a current SkillsTrack user, just feel free to reach out to one of us, or if you already know your area representative, I'm sure they will be happy to reach out to you as well. But we're so thankful that you guys joined us today, and I hope you all enjoy your weekend. And to all the mothers out there, happy Mother's Day. But thanks everyone for joining us.
I will go ahead and just release the poll one more time. If you're done, feel free to drop off.
Perfect.
But if you haven't filled out the poll, we just want to make sure that we get the right card to you. So I'll go ahead and leave that open. But if you've already filled it out, feel free to drop off. I'm going to stop the recording now, but I just want to make sure we get everybody covered who may not have answered. Thank you, everybody.